Good morning. Pastor Rick, Journey of Faith Baptist Church. I'm sure glad you stopped by today. We love to have you visit our offices, and we're glad that you took time out of your busy day for just a short word of encouragement. This is the second installment on how to give a blessing. In the first installment, or the first video that I did recently, it was about meaningful touch, and we talked about how Jesus touched the children, and this was a very amazing thing. It sets in the heart of a child meaningfulness, that they matter when somebody touches them, but it must be in a meaningful way. In today's installment, or today's video, I want to talk about speaking the blessing. The underarching theme of what I want to talk about is that it's not a blessing until you speak it. And many times, some of my men friends, we tend to go quiet, but we work hard and we provide for our families, and we think they should just understand that this is a blessing. Guys, let me help you with something here. It's very critical you get this. When you go quiet in the home, it only creates confusion. I'll say it again. When you go quiet in the home, it only creates confusion. Your children they think the world revolves around them. That's how most children have grown up. But they will fill in the blanks of what they don't know with what they think they know. And may I say that children are often wrong. What we see through a biblical example is that the male in the family, or the oldest man in the family, would speak the blessing. And when he spoke the blessing, heaven was behind that. Now, ladies, if you find yourself as the head of the home, maybe there's not that male role model and figure in your home for whatever reason, this isn't about judgment, but this is about now you have to step into that role, and you will have to be the one who pronounces the blessing. Moms, don't go quiet in the home. Speak words that are of value and uplifting to your children, and your children will begin to believe what you say about them. Positive or negative, your children will begin to believe what you say about them. I'm going to give you an example from the Old Testament, and we'll stay here for just a little while. In Genesis chapter 27, we see an elderly man who's lost his sight. He's not long for this world, so he's pronouncing his last and final blessing upon his children. In this instance, Jacob has tricked his father into believing he's the oldest. And so Isaac is about to give Jacob the firstborn blessing. Now, there's a lot here. We're not going to go into all of that. But what I want you to do is I want you to see that it's the spoken word that means something. Starting in verse 26, Genesis chapter 27, verse 26. This is from the New King James Version. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come near now and kiss me, my son." See that? That's meaningful touch. That's meaningful touch of expression. And he came near and kissed him, and he that would be that would be Isaac, and he, Isaac, smelled the smell of his clothing and blessed him and said, notice, he said something, "Surely the smell of my son is like the smell of a field, which the Lord has blessed. Therefore may God give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine." Wow, what does that mean? Well, let's back up a minute. I'm going to read this from the New Living Translation, and this will help explain a few things. Remember, New Living Translation is a thought-for-thought translation, not a word-for-word translation. In verse 26, it says this, "Then Isaac said to Jacob, 'Please come a little closer and kiss me, my son.' So Jacob went over and kissed him. And when Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he was finally convinced, and he blessed his son. He said, 'Ah, The smell of my son is like the smell of the outdoors, which the Lord has blessed. Isaac was a great outdoorsman. He loved the outdoors. And so this is words of meaning, words of love and of tenderness to his son. And he said, you smell like the field. Well, we don't have a cologne today that smells like the field, do we? But Isaac was saying, you smell like the fresh harvest of a field, and you smell like the outdoors which God has blessed. And I'm sure it took Isaac the father back to his childhood and to a very special meaning. And this connection was made, and this is how Isaac blessed Jacob. He said, from the dew of heaven and the richness of the earth, may God always give you abundant harvests of grain and bountiful new wine. In other words, I want you to have the fullest, the best that God has for your life. May it be upon you. And he is blessing his son with these positive, affirming words. Now this is an example for us. Positive, affirming words. Remember, silence communicates confusion in the home. If a blessing is going to be a blessing at all, it must be spoken. But remember, I said that even if you speak negatively of your children will live up to those things as well. Let me give you just a quick example. I think there's always room for positive criticism, something that says, you do this well, but I think you could do this better. That's a positive. It's really not a negative, but do you know that negative words can really change the heart of your child? For this illustration, we're going to call this woman, we're going to call her Linda. Okay, Linda. It's an illustration, but I want you to hear this. Linda always dressed in black. Her father had exposed her to horror movies when she was a child, very young child, 3, 4 years old. Throughout her formative years as a child, she was exposed to horrific terror and horror movies. And when she would cry and seek her father would laugh at her. And her father would put her down for these childish beliefs of fear. But they were real to her. And she grew up all of her formative years and her teen years, and she was terrified of the night and terrified of the darkness. And in an attempt to overcome these things, she began to dress in black and become the terror. Well, her father had also given her a nickname, and he called her his little demon child. And Linda grew up believing that she was a horror and a terror to this world. And she grew up terrified of the night and terrified of things that she had been exposed to. But this story has a happy ending. Linda was invited to a very loving church. A friend of hers invited her to come and hear about Jesus Christ. Well, Linda had never heard of Jesus Christ. She had only heard her father curse words of something of that nature. Well, when she entered and she came into the church, she felt love for the first time. And she heard the words of God, and she heard the invitation of Jesus Christ to her life. And that night she gave her heart and her life to Jesus. And she traded her old name, Demon Child, for a new name, Child of God. And Linda's life began to turn around. Those people in the church began to bless her. They spoke into her life blessing, and she believed the blessings, and she lived to the blessings. She became a fine woman, and she stopped wearing black everywhere she went. And she stopped seeing and being the darkness, and she stopped being terrified at night. Her father could have changed all of that. But her father spoke curses into her life instead of blessing. We do this, dads, when we say, You're stupid. You'll never amount to anything. Fathers, for goodness sakes, moms too, don't speak curses into your lives. Your words have power and they have meaning. Isaac spoke blessing into Jacob's life. It changed his life forever. Forever it changed his life. He went on to become Israel, a leader of a great nation. So folks, your spoken word can be a blessing or a curse, but I encourage you, bless your children. Bless them, and they will live up to your blessings. They will aspire to your blessings. And we'll speak more of this later, but for now, remember this. Silence in the home only creates confusion. Speak the blessing. Make it with meaningful touch. You will see your home change for the better. This is God's plan for the home. To be an oasis, a place that's safe to come back to, where people will love to be at. Make your home a blessing. I'm Pastor Rick, Journey of Faith Baptist Church. Thanks for sharing part of your day with us. We love you. God richly bless you. Good day.